Hey everybody, welcome to the shop, and today it's a cold December day, but we're going to heat things up a little bit with some steam bending. So what am I going to be bending today? It's going to be some figured maple for a beautiful net, and this net is going to be like something you've never seen before. I'm going to actually carve a little Chinook salmon parr, so the little juvenile stage Chinook salmon for the handle. So I'm actually going to do all that separate, insert it into resin in the handle. This fish is actually something that when my wife and I went on a guided fly fishing trip down the Yakima River in central Washington, we managed to somehow catch these tiny little Chinook parr, is what they're called, on the fly. So we were nymphing and catching those. And they're gorgeous little fish. So I decided that I'm going to basically carve up a little Chinook parr and stick it in the handle of a net. So yeah, let's make a net. You can see I have the strips that I made earlier. They're nice and uniform, ready to rock and roll. I also have a net handle. So now it's time to mock everything up. So that means steam bending these strips into the rough form around the form itself. So I will get that bolted down to this table. But first I got to get my Erlex little steam unit out here, and then I'm going to throw some water in it. So it's really cold outside, so a little pro tip is start boiling some water on your stove.
Yeah, I'll say it's boiling. Oh my god. Let's just take care of that.
And then very carefully pour that into the little port on your steam unit. That'll save you a ton of time. Like out here, it'd take an hour or so at least to get it going. Plug in the unit, let it start puking out steam through your steam box, and it's time to then bend these strips. So I'm going to run time maybe 20 to 22 minutes for these strips. That'll ensure good thorough saturation. Bend them around my form. Use the actual net handle as the actual base where they'll connect to. Clamp everything in place. Let it set for a couple hours and dry, and then release it and we'll glue it up. We'll see if we can do that tonight too. The timer just went off. 20 minutes. If you've seen my Koa net build, you know you don't want to come up short because cracks are not good. So I'm gonna go ahead, bust this thing out, bring it right back here, and let's put it together. So there you go. It's all clamped up. Now I've used pretty much every small clamp I got in my shop, including some not so small ones. And that, I guess, is the moral of this whole story. When you're putting together a net, you get one shot to get that glue to be as tight as possible. And I know Gorilla Glue expands out, and that's good, but you don't want to have Gorilla Glue as part of your seam. That's just ugly. And now it's time to let that glue do its work, let it expand, and then we'll pull it out and clean it up and get ready for the next part, which I think you're gonna like. Boom! Fresh out the mold. Beautiful, beautiful figure maple net. It's a monster right now, but we're gonna take it over to the sander and hit that real quick. All right, now that we got the pretty part of the net done, it's on to the even prettier part. This is a Chinook Salmon smolt, or parr. So I went ahead and I sketched that up. It's 1-to-1 scale of what we actually caught the day on the river. So it's about, well, let's check it out. 1-to-1 being a 5-inch parr. So I know I was kind of lying when I said in my previous videos that I was going to try and target larger fish. Clearly, this isn't bigger. I'm trying to figure out what to do in the end here. You can see I kind of roughed out an idea, but this will probably change that. So I want the parr to fit into there. That's the goal. So off to the bandsaw. Let's go cut it out. I use the wood burner, as you can see, to detail. So it's more than just, the wood burner is used for more than just doing like scale details. You get an idea of what you can actually do with this. I helped define areas that were really soft and punky. So when I used my carbide burrs, which is really sharp, you still end up with some fluff from this really soft material. So basically, this allowed me to go in, use that burner to help give it that edge. It didn't take all that long, maybe 2.5 hours to get to this point from a solid block of wood. So that's pretty cool. It is perfect to fit in that net handle. It is the right thickness and size. I will cut out to fit in the actual handle. I have the eyeballs picked out too, which I will show you right here. And we're on to the sealing process now, and then paint. So that's up next. All right, so with the airbrushing complete on the fish, it's time to turn my attention to the actual net itself and the channel that goes around the hoop. Now, that's to help hide or recess so it won't get worn as quickly, the line that ties in the basket. And that was done previously with a really janky setup. If you've seen my Koa net build, really janky. I literally put electrical tape on a bearing to pack it out. That was a terrible idea. Don't do that. And thanks to Stonefly Nets on Instagram, at Stonefly Nets, awesome guy, awesome page. He suggested that I check out Nets That Honor the Fish, and they make custom net building supplies like this. This is a top and bottom bearing, 1/2-inch shank, and a little steel cutter. That little cutter is a perfect groove cutter for the outside of my net for the line to actually live in once it's all assembled. That's a lot better than electrical tape. So I'll put a link to this in the description. This is the $45 one. If you do a lot of nets, go with the $90 high-speed steel one. But now let's head over to the router table and I'll show you how I'm running this. So here's my not so elegant solution to pouring epoxy into this thing. So what I'm gonna do, I got some wax paper right here. I'm gonna line it on top of this board. This is finished side up, so it's a little smoother. Hopefully that'll work. I then have this veneer with sticky back. So what I'm gonna do, tape that down, put the flex wood part on here, clamp it down really hard, and hopefully that'll create the bond I need. And then once it's all said and done, I'll just peel the wood off of it and sand this down. All right, so moral of this story, you just watched me pour epoxy into this one-of-a-kind net, and you should just listen to your wife. She told me to only fill about half the void, or half the fish, so half the void with epoxy, then let all the air bubbles escape that way, then do a second pour 24 hours later. I mixed up a bunch of epoxy and didn't do that. So it looks great on this side. I think that's wonderful. That was what I was shooting for, nice and clear. I was worried about was that side. So as you can see, the main part of the fish, the front 2/3 looks great, but that bottom, the bubbles did not escape. So that creates a problem. Right now it's very milky and there's a lot of little air bubbles stuck there to the fish. It still looks amazing, and this is my A side of the net. So right now you're watching me actually run it through the drum sander. Now that it's sanded down to 220 grit, it's time to start shaping the net. All right, so we are sanded 500, 1,000, 1,200 grit, and it's looking really good. Now it is time to install the net bag, and to do that, I need some holes. Down here at eye level, on this little channel, I have a center point marked right here, and that's where I'm going to start my net at the center. So I'm going to pull an 1/8 inch either side because I want a 1/4 inch in between. It's where my line's going to thread through. You'll see that later on. But then 2 inches between each rung that will get connected. Oh, little pro tip for getting around here. We have a fancy little fisherman's tape slash, get a fabric store. That helps you figure out your angles. You could do it with a normal tape measure, but why risk it? You get one shot. So, and we're off and running. I need to put a hole right here for a little lanyard string or something to attach to this so I can actually hang on to the net on the stream. So what I've done is I've come up with this little brass rod thing. It's hollow, nice hollow hole. It's got threads. I don't really need the threads. What I want to do is get a nice tight fit right in there, and I'm just going to epoxy it in place, and that will be my through hole. And then I'll just kind of chamfer it around once it's in and dry. Then it's on to finish. That can only mean one thing. The moment of truth has arrived. Oil-based exterior. This is spar urethane. First coat, we're gonna make this thing pop. Yeah, I'm nervous, but we gotta do it. Hello, fishy. Please don't suck. Beautiful. Hey, why don't you spray in front of your brand new saw stop saw? Good idea. At the risk of totally overspraying my brand new saw stop saw, I'd say that was worth it. Anyways, I'm gonna take this guy inside and finish it up in there. Probably 4 more to 5 more coats of this. Little bit of sanding, 1,000 grit in between. Another coat, 1,000 grit, repeat. Last coat, just a nice coat. And yeah, I'll show you the net basket shortly. That's super stylish cheetah right there. Woo, that's hot. That is a tapered piece of the decoy line that I'm using. Tapered it with the heat from this little guy. The moment of truth has arrived, and I'm stoked. This beautiful maple hardwood net is exactly what I had in mind when I set out to build it, and even right down to the Chinook Salmon parr that I carved and placed into the handle of the net. It reminds me of a wonderful trip with my wife out fly fishing, and I will have it the rest of my life. I am beyond excited, and that's the point of these builds, is when you're in your shop, build for something you'll be proud of to remember memories by. If you have enjoyed the process of this build, been inspired maybe, go ahead and hit that like button. Please subscribe and share it with your friends. And get out in the shop and build. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I'm really good about answering them. And thank you for following along.